Glock pistols are built by conscripts for conscripts. 1911 handguns are built by craftsmen for marksmen. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Trench Grenade channel. I am your host, the average 1911 philosophy of use in 2025 video enjoyer that your mom says that we have at home. Thanks for watching. Guys, the purpose of today's video is I've been crafting about 20 talking points for 2025 1911 enjoyers or haters on why the 1911 may be a pro or a con for you. This is going to be a little bit different take. This isn't going to be 15 rounds on the flat range and, oh, this one feels better, you know. This one feels better than a Glock or whatever. This isn't going to be that. This is going to be a longer format video where I lay out all my thoughts, all my experiences, all my, I guess, introspective, nature of what is the 1911 in 2025. So go grab a beer, go grab a rain, go grab whatever you got. And this is going to be kind of a longer format video as we dive into the 1911 and where it lies in 2025. Real quick, I'm going to talk about the most dangerous thing in the room. It is not going to be the Glock fanboys or the 1911 fanboys attacking each other in the comments. It's going to be this loaded SIG M17 handgun that is in my work belt because I am attending a course, and I figured this would mellow everybody out. So whether you're a Glock fanboy or a 1911 fanboy, instead of arguing with each other in the comments, realize who the true enemy is. Is this loaded M17 in a holster due to work purposes, and it is in the room and it can hurt you, okay? So I say all this to, hey, keep it cool with each other in the comments. Hey, why do you like a striker-fired handgun? Why do you like a 1911? Oh, well, I'm a gentleman because I carry a 1911. Whatever you do, get down below and engage with guys in the comments below and realize that regardless of where you stand on the issue, the most dangerous thing in the room today is not each other. It is this loaded SIG M17 handgun. We'll put this hand grenade, trench grenade, away. So, like I said, I have a number of handguns that you cannot see that are just out of frame. We have several 1911 handguns that we'll be discussing today. Every weapon is clear and safe, and I will clear them on camera as we get to them and all of the good stuff. We do have live ammo in the room, but it will not be chambered up other than the SIG M17. There is safety. Okay, hit the like button. I'm going to give you guys the background, the rules of the video, and all the stuff. If every single person that watches this video hits the like button right now, that is going to skyrocket this channel, skyrocket the video, and tell a like-minded individual that you enjoy the Trench Grenade channel, you enjoy the discussions, and it will send them over to the channel where they can get inevitably flagged by a 1911, and it will be great. So hit the like button and comment down below if this video changes your perspective on the 1911 for good or for worse. And let me know, what are you carrying down below? There's going to be a lot of times throughout this longer format video that I ask you guys to get in the comments and sound off with a certain answer. That's okay. But as of right now, let me know what you're carrying and if you enjoy 1911s. And remember, guys, the most dangerous thing in the room is the SIG M17. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about two different categories. Concealed carry for a realistic concealed carry weapon and without rule of law. I'll define each. Concealed carry can be outside the waistband with a garment over it, or it can be in a fanny pack. Here's a SIG M18. It can be in a fanny pack with a trigger guard, weapon on safe, right? It can be whatever you want, but we're mainly going to focus on the philosophy of use for without rule of law and for concealed carry for the 1911 pistol as opposed to other options on the market, okay? Yes, there's two of them. Yes, you're in serious danger. Okay, so that will be the main topic of the video is around without rule of law and concealed carry in 2025. My background. And yes, we have a ton of talking points. It's going to take a long time, but you guys are here for the vibes, so thank you for hanging out. My background with the 1911. Okay, I have been shooting a 1911 for my entire life, okay? But I would say I've been seriously shooting 1911s for the past 10 to 11 years. I've done a number of burn downs. I've done a number of tests. The 1911s that I've owned in my life include Kimber Custom 2, a Kimber Raptor 2, a Colt Series 70, I'm trying to think, a Springfield Armory 4-inch, like tank commander model, a Staccatos, those are more 2011s, but I've owned a ton. And now, of course, I own the TSOS M1911A1 Government that will be accompanying us on the video, as well as this TSOS Raider M45A1. So I have a lot of experience. I'm not just a Glock guy. And just because this video may turn out to say a lot of pros about the Glock pistol or striker fired handgun and a lot of negatives about the 1911, that isn't necessarily where I will end up in the end. So you have to watch the whole video to figure out where I actually stand on this. But I have a lot of training. I have a lot of knowledge on 1911 handguns. And just because on the channel, all you guys normally see are Glock handguns being tested to high round count or similar striker fired handguns being tested to high round counts, that's not necessarily just my background. That's just what I'm forced to use for work, is the striker fired handguns. Okay, so there's some of my background with the 1911s. I have a lot of knowledge on them. Okay, this is not going to be a nostalgia trip video, right? Just because these guns look cool doesn't mean we're just going to, obviously pay, just give it all the props. Yes, it's a World War II gun, World War I gun. It's made changes over the years, modern advancements, but we're not just going to focus on nostalgia today. We are going to focus on the practical application of using a 1911 handgun for concealed carry and without rule of law for the philosophy of use video. So we're going to try to stay away mostly from the nostalgia today. So if you were focusing on that second type of cool to kind of pull you across the finish line, well, you're going to be kind of upset, because this is going to be focusing on the accuracy, weight, you name it, with the handgun, right? Okay. Next thing I want to talk about, regardless of where you fall at the end of this video, understand that when you go out and you shoot a competition, or when I go out and I shoot a USPSA competition, a steel challenge, or an excellence in competition match in the Army, I normally end up in the upper third or top 10, if not first place of the match in a local match. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because regardless of which option you choose today, whether you end up choosing the Glock 19 or striker fired handgun, or you end up choosing the 1911, if you dry fire once a week, if you live fire once a month, and you attend a competition once a quarter, you will be successful with either the Glock, the SIG, whatever striker fired handgun you want. For the remainder of the video, whenever I say Glock, I mean any striker fired handgun, a modern, reliable striker fired handgun comparable to a Glock. So whether that be Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, previously the SIG, before they started doing all the things that we all hate. Yeah, when I say Glock, I mean modern striker fired handgun. But at the end of this video, regardless of where you fall, if you are dry firing once a week, live firing once a month, attending a competition once a quarter, and attending one course per year on your handgun, whatever your handgun you do choose, you will be better than the bad guy. So regardless of where you end up today, understand that you're probably already better than the bad guy if you follow the rules I just laid out. Okay, moving on. Vote down below. Vote down below which one ultimately you end up, and let's just get into the actual talking points. Platform comparison. Okay, like I stated previously, we will be comparing the 1911 chambered in .45 ACP, the traditional take on a 1911, and we will be comparing it directly against a Glock 19 Gen 5. Now, a lot of guys in the comments are going to be like, well, Trench, that is apples to oranges. It's not. We will be comparing 9mm to .45 because John Moses Browning intended on the 1911 be chambered in .45 ACP and ran with a 5-inch barrel. So that is what we will be comparing the Glock Gen 5 to, will be the 1911 chambered in .45 ACP. So we're not really going to be touching staccatos, even though we do have one here for comparison later. We will not be touching staccatos too much today. It will be a direct comparison between the Glock 19 Gen 5 to the 1911 chambered and .45 ACP single stack, okay? If you want a different comparison in a future follow-on video, comparing the Glock 19 Gen 5 to the staccato double stack series of weapons, then post that down below. But today we'll be focusing laser focus on the .45 ACP traditional, what John Moses Browning intended to be from the 1911. Okay, with all of that preamble out of the way, let's get into it. Oh, hold on. We got to cheers, boys. Grab a beer, grab a rain. This is going to be a longer format video. I know you guys enjoy the longer format, okay? So grab a beverage. Cheers. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And there will be links down below if you want to join the Patreon. Thank you. Okay, talking point number 1. Weight. The 1911 average is about 39 ounces loaded. The Glock 19 is about 26 to 30 ounces. Now, that's based on Glock 19X or Glock 19, right? But the point of that is weight is going to impact fatigue drastically. If you have to carry this handgun all day long, a fully loaded 1911, it's going to be about twice the weight. Obviously, it's not actually twice the weight, but for demonstration purposes, it's about double. Okay, so you get double the weight with a 1911 as compared to a Glock 19 Gen 5. So when you put the numbers down, it's not actually double, but for demonstration purposes, it's basically double when you factor in the fatigue, the type of ammunition, the size of the handgun compared to the Glock 19, because it's not just the weight we're focusing on either, it's also the overall size. The 5-inch barrel, it would be comparable to that of a Glock 34. So 39 ounces as opposed to roughly 30 ounces, that's going to impact fatigue and mobility throughout the day, which is going to make you frustrated. If you have ever carried a full-size 1911 for an entire week inside the waistband, then go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and let me know down below how frustrating that was. So right off the bat, the Glock handgun is going to beat it drastically in terms of weight. Moving down to capacity, we all know this. Trust me, it's going to get better. We just got to get through these basic basic statistics. The 1911 statistically is going to have, on average, an 8+1 magazine. So you're looking at roughly 8 to 9 rounds with your standard 1911 of 45 ACP. Now, with the Glock, obviously, 15+1, with 2 spare magazines, which I would say is mandatory if you do end up choosing the 1911. 2 spare magazines is going to put you roughly around 24 rounds total, whereas a Glock, with only 1 spare magazine, you're going to be around 31 to 32 rounds. That's a big deal, right? So you have more rounds in a lighter carrying capacity. This is nothing new, but it should be stated again for you. It's like a reminder. Hey, even if you carry 3 magazines, you still only have 24 rounds of 45 ACP as opposed to the 1 magazine in the gun with the Glock and 1 spare, you're at roughly 31 to 32 rounds. And we all know you can go to 17-round magazines such as this right here. And there you go, right? So we know that you can get significantly more ammunition out of your Glock handgun. Moving forward, reloads. Reloads are slower with the 1911. You cannot argue with me on this. The standard shooter, average shooter, is going to be able to reload a Glock handgun a lot faster just due to the ergonomics of the handgun, because most 1911 pistols are going to have a much smaller magazine well. Even if you modify them heavily, the handgun will have a smaller magazine well as you are putting a single stack item into a single stack hole. There's some joke inside that statement, I'm sure. But if you think of this as a Shadow Systems, again, these guns are unloaded, okay? If you think of a Shadow Systems, just your standard magazine well is going to make it a lot easier for you to load and reload that handgun, right? So for reloads, not only do you have less ammunition with the 1911, you also are slower to reload. And there's going to be guys in the comments that are very passionate about their reload speeds. Remember, you're wrong, but the most dangerous thing in the room is not each other arguing with each other. It's this loaded M17 with the safety on. So remember that as you get passionate in the comments below. So reloads are slower, and you have a significantly less amount of ammunition when you choose the 1911 over a striker-fired modern handgun like a Glock, right? Okay, moving on from the reloads. I know that'll make a lot of guys upset, but it's just a fact. So if you take the average shooter, they're slower with a 1911 reload, and even when you do get that magazine seated, okay, even when you do get that magazine seated, a lot of times with a 1911, okay, we'll take this, boom, got our 7-round magazine from, I believe, Springfield Armory. Even when I do get that mag seated, you'll often see 1911 guys give it a additional, I guess, push on the gun to make sure that that magazine is actually seated in the gun, right? Because a lot of times it takes that additional kind of life insurance to make sure that that magazine is actually seated due to the spring tension on the magazines, right? Whether you're using a 7-round Springfield or an 8-round Checkmate magazine or Wilson Combat, doesn't matter. When you reload the magazine on a 1911 handgun, it's pretty standard to give it that additional life insurance push on the end of the gun due to the magazine design. Okay, I'm sure everyone's upset about that, but it's just, hey, be mad. Okay, moving on. Now we get into recoil, of course. Water is wet and recoil. 45 ACP has more felt recoil, slower split times. 9mm enables faster and more controllable follow-ups. Water is wet, right? That's what I'm saying. So bigger bullet means bigger hole, but also means boom, more reciprocating mass, and slower follow-up shots. This is, water is wet. I'm just sharing the news, right? Cancer is bad. Water is wet. You guys get it? Yes. Okay, slower follow-up shots with your 1911, more recoil and less bullets and heavier gun, right? It's a lot of bad things in a row, but the biggest thing is most gunfights are over 3 rounds, 3 feet, 3 rounds, 3 feet, and 3 seconds, right? Or the one I subscribe to is 6 feet or 6 yards, 6 rounds, 6 seconds. That is the one I subscribe to from the FBI because they factored in self-deletions in there. So factoring in or taking out the self-deletions, we know that you're going to need at least 6 rounds to either the bad guy's dead in Minecraft or you're dead in Minecraft or you're both bleeding out, dying, running away. So that is why faster follow-up shots and being able to get rounds on target very quickly, very effectively is one of the most important things that we're going to discuss today. And it may end up favoring the 1911 here in a little bit, so that's why you have to stay tuned. So we all know recoil, slower with the 45 ACP, but bigger bullet, bigger hole, and then gets into the argument of modern caliber design with 9mm. Don't worry, we're going to talk about it. But bigger hole, more better, but it's slower. We'll talk about it, trust me. 1 second. Everybody grab their rain. Everybody grab their beer. Grab what you got going on. Cheers. Hit the like button. All right, moving on with the iPad of truth. Maintenance requirements. Okay, so for simplicity's sake, I'm going to lay out just an in summary of everything we've talked about. The 1911 is, again, for simplicity's sake, twice as heavy, half the rounds, and 50% speed on follow-up shots, and slower reloads. So far, the 1911 is half the ammunition to the fight, double the weight, double the size, I know, dramatization, but you guys get what I'm getting at here, and slower follow-up shots. But you still get that 45 ACP hole and slower reloads, okay? So far, not looking great. Not looking great, even though, Glock's built by conscripts for conscripts, and 1911's built by craftsmen for marksmen. Just wait, we'll talk about it. But maintenance requirements. You should clean your 1911 every 200 to 300 rounds, okay? You do not have to clean a Glock handgun. I would say every 1,000 rounds is our benchmark for the burn down test. Every 1,000 rounds, we will clean a Glock-style striker-fired handgun every 1,000 rounds. For the 1911, you should clean it every 200 rounds, okay? Every 200 to 300 rounds on the range, you will notice that a 1911 style handgun will slowly, the cycle pattern or the reciprocation of the slide, it'll start off normal, right? Boom, gun goes off, gun cycles normally. Once that gun starts to get dirty, you're going to feel this. Ka-chunk, 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 and the gun will start slowing down its cycling rate. That is a good way to know that your 1911 needs more lubrication. So the guns need to be cleaned every 200 to 300 rounds on average, and they need to be lubricated properly. You can see the lubrication on this 1911A1 T-Sauce is already coming out because the guns, they require more lubrication. So 1911s require more maintenance 200 rounds, 300 rounds, needs to be cleaned, and they take twice as long to clean. So not only do you have to clean them twice as often, you also have to clean them twice as hard because it's a more intricate design and it takes longer to break it down as opposed to your Glock handgun. Not a deal breaker, but it is something to note. It's more complicated to take apart, it's more complicated to clean, takes longer to clean, and you need more lubrication. Pause on that. So you guys get what I'm getting at. So 1911s now have half the ammunition, 50% of the ammunition. They weigh 50% more. They take 50% longer to clean. You need to clean them 50% more of the time. They're 50% larger, 50% worse. Well, but pause on that, Trench. Don't worry. Everybody relax. Remember who the real enemy in the room is, okay? It can hurt you, so be careful. All right, moving on. Glocks require minimal upkeep and tolerate abuse. I can attest to that directly. Here's my carry gun. This thing, you might be able to tell a little bit on camera all the abuse it's gone through. This thing just chugs and chugs. I clean it every 1,000 rounds, and it really doesn't need it. And Glocks can stand up to abuse far better than that of a 1911 handgun. Think about this. I was watching, have you guys ever seen Live PD? We were watching Live PD last night, and the officers had to climb up an embankment on a river. And a couple of them slipped and fell, and they were carrying Glock 17 handguns, and their Glock 17s were completely caked in mud. Even though they were in the holster, they were completely caked in mud. Would you want that to be the case with your 1911? Do you think this Colt M45A1 Raider that we have at home would actually function caked in mud? Be honest. Well, Trench, I'm not doing that. I'm concealed carrying. What if you have to break contact? What if you slip and fall and now your gun is caked in mud? Do you think it will work? I don't think it will. Let's move on. 1911 has more safeties, but it's not drop safe. So that's one thing. The Series 70s are not drop safe. All my guns are Series 70s. I like Series 70s. It's not necessarily a deal breaker for me, but I need to state it. The Series 70 guns are not drop safe. The Glock handguns and most modern striker-fired handguns are drop safe. So while the 1911, it looks cool, and it has a grip safety, and it has a manual safety, and all the stuff, just because it has all these safeties on the gun, they are still not drop safe, okay? It's just preventing the rearward travel of the trigger pull. Or if you're Sig Sauer, you don't even incorporate that. You just incorporate a manual safety on the side of the gun. Again, this gun is loaded, and you hope to God you don't get sued in court to death, which is exactly what happened. Okay, so I love how I just dropped that gun, and it could have gone off, to be honest. Okay, allegedly. All right, so Glocks are drop safe, 1911s are not if they're Series 70s. Let's move on. Environmental resilience. Glocks function reliably in mud, water, snow, and sand. Most of the time, with a Glock style handgun, you simply will get a click, no bang on that first round, a tap, rack, and normally the Glock will start functioning on the second or third round if it is caked in snow, mud, water, you name it. So these handguns, Glock handguns, will function better in an austere environment. Normally, if you get a click, tap, rack, guess what? The gun's back in the fight. Whereas the 1911 is typically a lot longer process to get this bad Larry back into the fight if it gets caked in sand. Ask the Marines how that went during the invasion of Iraq when they're or Afghanistan when their M45A1s got dirty. Ask them how often they used them. Ask guys like Matt Pranka how those 1911s functioned. They threw them in the bag and they switched to Glock 19s very quickly. All right. 1911s can seize or malfunction without frequent cleaning. Parts and upgrades. Glock. Endless aftermarket, modular, easy optics mounting. 1911s. Optic cuts are expensive or non-existent. Parts often hand fit. 1911s are a craftsman and a marksman's tool. It's more complicated to get a proper red dot mounted on this bad Larry than it would be a striker-fired handgun. Not that you can't do it, but it is a hand-fit craftsman's weapon that is more complicated than that of a striker-fired handgun, right? So parts interchangeability, you can literally take, it would take a second, but I could take this bad Larry apart, and guess what I could do? I could swap it. We're not going to do that on camera right now. Barrels, you can see this one has a fluted barrel. Cool. Sights, easy. You can switch out the sights. Boom. You can mount red dots. You can do whatever you want with the Glock handguns, but you cannot do that as easily with the 1911, right? Even the elephant in the room, the bad guy here, this M18, comes with, it's so modular, they don't even tighten the optics plate because they want to blind the operator for easy modularity, right? But you guys get what I'm saying. The striker-fired handguns are much more modular, much easier to use and modify, and with parts interchangeability. Let's move on. If you haven't hit the like button by now, you're probably a T-Rex supporter. So if you're a T-Rex arm supporter, then yeah, don't hit the like button, leave it alone. But if you hate T-Rex arms, hit the like button. Now you're legally obligated to do so. Cheers. All right. Cost and logistics. A good 1911 costs roughly $1,500 to $3,000, plus the maintenance, plus the custom work that is put into it. A good Glock costs $300 with no upgrades. Okay, so a good Glock, a $300 Glock will work just as good as a $3,000 1911. A $3,000 Glock will work just as good as a $300 1911. You guys see what happens? So the more you modify a Glock and take the stuff out of it, the worse it works. The less you modify a 1911, the worse it works, right? So cheap 1911s, trash. Cheap Glocks, awesome. Expensive Glocks, trash. Expensive 1911s, awesome. Does that make sense? So it kind of it alternates, right? Glocks, you want to leave them exactly how they are from the factory. Put on some Triticon night sights like I have here, and now you're off to the races, right? With the 1911, it is a $1,500 to $3,000 journey right off the bat. Rest in peace, James Yeager, but he used to harp on that all the time. Moving on. Ammo costs and availability. 45 ACP is nearly twice the price of 9mm. Okay, so now not only do you get less bullets, now you're paying double to train with the less bullets. Okay, so 9mm costs roughly twice as much. It's a little bit of a dramatization, but it costs a lot more than 9mm. Okay, so not only are you having less rounds in the magazine, now the ammunition costs more to train with. That's a problem because you should be training twice as hard. If you're going to run a 1911, you need to train roughly twice as hard to be able to compete with the striker-fired gang. So, an average Glock shooter will outperform a upper class 1911 shooter. So if you're a 1911 shooter, you need to be training a lot more, dry firing a lot more than the average striker fire guy, because this guy is going to get complacent and you need to be up here doing maintenance, up here dry firing, up here live firing, up here attending courses, while this dude relies on his equipment. Make sense? 9mm is more abundant worldwide for critical, which is critical for WROL logistics. So you're not going to find a lot of 45 ACP laying around, not as much as you will 9mm. So that is one big thing to think about. Is during a grid down scenario, a philosophy of use, without rule of law scenario, SHTF, there's going to be a lot more, as I casually kick a Glock 19X on the ground, there's going to be a lot more 9mm around than there will be 45 ACP. The average gun owner doesn't train. Most concealed carriers only shoot around 200 rounds a year. That's a fact. Go ask anybody you know. Hey, how many rounds do you shoot honestly a year? Oh, 300, 400 rounds, one range session. See? Okay? So most shooters don't even shoot. And Glocks require less practice to operate safely and effectively. So if you're choosing, now's when we're getting into the good stuff. If you're choosing to carry a 1911, you need to shoot once a month. You need to train very hard. You need to dry fire every week. You need to be training more than that of a Glock guy. You should be training anyway. Everyone should be training, but we know 1911s are harder to operate. We need to train a lot harder to get better, right? To be able to keep that high skill, that marksmanship skill. High skill, not universally transferable, okay? High skill is not universally transferable. Just because you can run a 1911 doesn't mean it's a good choice for everyone. Skill-dependent systems don't scale well under pressure or chaos. Skill-dependent systems do not scale well under pressure or chaos. That means just because, okay, I've trained myself to a high level with my 1911 under chaos of a gunfight, okay, under the chaos of a real world gunfight, guess what's going to start to diminish very quickly? Competence. Competence diminishes under stress. So if it's very, very difficult for you to hit what you're aiming at with a 1911 and you only have 8 rounds, don't do it. But understand, if you were a good shooter with a Glock and a good shooter with a 1911, guess what? There's less things on a Glock that can go wrong, so you're going to be slightly better with the Glock unless you're an expert and a marksman. If you train yourself to a very high standard and your 1911 works, you have a $1,500 or $3,000 1911, you're training weekly, you're squared away, and you're a marksman, a very skilled shooter that can actually hit what they're aiming at with the 1911, then all of this will be fine. You can conceal carry a 1911 if you're trained to a high level. A little bit of a life hack for you guys, okay? If you want to turn a $300 or $1,000 1911 from T-Sauce into a working gun, all you got to do is create a YouTube channel, upload every day for 3 years. Once your channel has a big enough following, then you're going to take the T-Sauce 1911 Raider and the T-Sauce 1911 Government out to the range. Test it very publicly. Have both guns fail on camera so that way the T-Sauce team cannot deny that it happened for a 5,000 round burn down. And then you're going to email T-Sauce, hey, did you see the video? To which they're going to reply, yes, we've been following along and we're very disappointed in the performance of our handguns. Then they're going to ask for you to send them back to be fixed. Then you're going to send both of the pistols back to T-Sauce to be fixed. So what was once a $300 Government and a $1,000 Raider, now they're going to fix it and change everything and give you an entire rap sheet on both handguns, to which you now have roughly a $1,000 and $1,500 perfected 1911s, because the gunsmith, their head gunsmith, will have to fix them because they know that you're a content creator. And now you have a life hack where you can buy shitty 1911s, test them on camera, and make their gunsmith fix it the way it should have been from the factory. So there you go. Start your YouTube channel today, upload every day, get a small, mediocre C-list following of very autistic rain drinkers such as yourself, and then you can have cheap 1911s that get fixed. There you go. There's a little bit of a life hack. But I think you guys get what I'm saying. A $300 1911 just ain't it unless you force publicly the company to fix it, like T-Sauce. Let's move on. Stress impacts decision making. Glocks, fewer steps, less margin for error, okay? Say that again. Stress impacts decision making. 1911s have safety, manual of arms may fail under adrenaline. We've kind of talked about that. You need to be an expert. If you're going to use a 1911 A1 as your concealed carry weapon, philosophy of use, and a WROL, SHTF scenario, you need to be an expert with the 1911. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that with the Glock, because less trained person, we'll just say, can operate a Glock handgun pretty well even under stress, right? So Glocks, fewer steps, less margin for error, whereas the 1911 have safeties and the manual of arms may fail under adrenaline, because if you limp wrist a 1911, guess what's going to happen? It will not cycle. You can get away with a little bit of limp wrist on a Glock, okay? But with the 1911, you cannot get away with as much margin for error on the limp wristing. Make sense? Craftsman. For the philosophy of use, summary, and finale here. This is my thoughts. The 1911 is a craftsman's gun. 1911 have precision triggers. It points very naturally. Okay, it points very naturally, has elegant mechanics, it carries a legacy but demands time, money, and discipline. This is an expert's gun. Okay, it's an expert's gun. It's got a nice trigger, it points naturally. Okay, if you can hit what you're aiming at, it's amazing. It looks amazing, right? It looks excellent. Carries a legacy behind it. It has awesome mechanics. If you're trained to a high level, safety off when you draw the gun, safety back on when you're done firing, just like a AR-15, carries the legacy behind it, right? We know dudes were storming the beaches of Normandy or jumping out of planes, killing the Germans in Minecraft with these things. Awesome, right? Based. but it demands time, money, and discipline to become an expert with the gun. Performance potential. The 1911 trigger is unmatched precision for slow, deliberate fire, ideal for competition, surgical shooting, and refined control. But you must earn it. 600 rounds minimum. So if you've gotten to this point of the video and you have a 1911, 600 rounds minimum of testing before you carry it to make sure it's actually going to function properly. I am mandating that you shoot 600 rounds before you trust your 1911 handgun. Minimum, okay? 600 rounds minimum, dry fire, and safety manipulation and mag changes. You must be doing it every day. You have to be dry firing it, manipulating the safety, right, on and off target, out of the holster. You must be, everything with the 1911 must be second nature if you're going to choose to run it in 2025. You have to train yourself to a high level. The 1911 will force you to be a better shooter because it punishes you at a higher degree if you're becoming complacent. So the 1911 will make you a better shooter based on the maintenance schedule, based on the dry fire schedule, based on the care that you have to take in training with a 1911 as opposed to a Glock or similar striker-fired handgun. And without rule of law, the 1911 will require cleaning, tuning, specific mags that actually work with your gun. Yes, it's a serious issue. Not all 1911 magazines are created equal. You need to actually test your magazines to make sure they work with your gun. You cannot just go out and buy OEM Glock mags and it works with every Glock. You have to actually test your magazines if you're going to choose the 1911. You have to tune the springs to make sure everything is actually running with whatever ammunition you're going to run. Hollow points are very finicky in 1911 handguns. I'll say that again. Without rule of law, a lot of hollow points are finicky from 1911 to 1911. So just because you have an M45 Raider that we have at home, you need to tune it for whatever ammunition you're actually going to use. If that's 230 grain ball, then make sure you tune it for that. The ammo is heavier and rarer to find in a without rule of law scenario. Spare parts are not universal or easily replaced. It's going to be very difficult if your 1911 goes down due to a part issue for you to find replacement parts in a without rule of law scenario. The more complex this firing system, the more risk you take on. That is why a lot of guys go with Glock, because it's not risky. The firing system is very simple. The mechanism is very simple. You can find replacement parts and less risk if you choose a Glock style handgun rather than a 1911. That is why guys love the Glock pistols so much. So the 1911 is complex, which adds your risk assessment level to be much more significant. Just think about the analogy with the mud and the sand. That's your life. That's your lifeline, right? The Glock and without rule of law, it's durable, it's simple, there's ammo everywhere, parts are ubiquitous, it's easier to scavenge, share, and repair. The Glock wins in the without rule of law scenario. Even if you're an expert with the 1911, the Glock still wins in the without rule of law in terms of scavenging and parts interchangeability, you name it. Final takeaway. Here we go. And if you got this far, guys, donate to the Ammo Fund, become a member of the Patreon. Cheers one last time, and we'll conduct the outro and the final takeaways. And will I recommend it? We'll find out. Also, let me know if you want the staccato. Okay, if you want the staccato part 2, let me know down below in the comments if you require the staccato part 2 of this. Let me know, and let me know what you think of the gym setup, the lighting. I know we're getting used to it. It's a little bit different setup, so just let me know what you think of the gym setup so far, okay, for the new studio. All right, let's get into the outro here and the summary and what my recommendations really are. Final takeaways. Philosophy of use matters. 1911s are not worse, they're just different. They are made for craftsmen, marksmen, and it is a rewarding system. If you commit your time and energy and effort to making a 1911 work, you will have a good time. They are also very nostalgic. They look very base. They look cool. They're fun to shoot, but you have to become an expert with them. You cannot be lazy. So 1911s are not worse, they're just different. They are for craftsmen, they are for marksmen, and it is a very rewarding process if you choose to commit time and energy into the 1911. But for normal people, the Glock wins in a real world emergency. The Glock style striker fired handgun wins every day for all the reasons we listed. If you just need a gun and you're not a a craftsman, a marksman, you just want the gun to work every time you pull the trigger, and that is going to be the Glock handgun. Okay, carry what you train with. If you've earned your 1911 and you've earned that expert level, carry it. If you're an expert with your 1911, then enjoy it. Don't let people like me or whoever dissuade you from carrying it. The 1911 is mega based. John Moses Browning, 45 ACP. It's based, right? Mega based. So don't let the internet tell you you can't carry a 1911. If at the end of the day you know that you dry fire weekly, you live fire monthly, you attend one course a year, and you shoot a competition quarterly, and you're doing all the maintenance procedures, you're doing all the dry fire, you're doing all the stuff you need to, you have your gun, you shot it more than 600 rounds to actually test your 1911 to make sure it works, well, don't let people convince you not to carry it. If you are an expert with your 1911, then carry it. But don't romanticize it. Just understand the average Glock shooter will outperform the average 1911 shooter. So the 1911 guy needs to put in a lot more effort than the average Glock guy. That's a fact. You need to be an expert. You need to be able to hit what you're aiming at because you have less rounds. Because remember, the gun weighs 50% more. You have 50% less ammo. It's 50% larger. And its ammo costs 50% more. You name it. The 1911 on paper is a lot worse, parts interchangeability, so you need to earn the right to carry it by becoming an expert with the 1911 if that's what you choose to do. Just don't romanticize your decision. Understand you are at a disadvantage off the rip as opposed to the Glock guy. The Glock guy off the rip with a $500 Glock will be much better shooter than the $500 1911 guy. So the cost of entry is much higher with the 1911, and the Glock guy, if that Glock guy trains to a high level, they will outperform the 1911 guy. That's a fact. All right, closing thoughts. Cool doesn't beat consistent. Okay? Cool does not beat consistent. If you won't train, don't carry a 1911. If you know you're not going to dry fire, you know you're not going to train, you know you're not going to conduct the maintenance and the finicky nature of everything that is required to be an expert on a 1911, then just don't do it. If you're not going to train with it, then don't carry a 1911. Glocks keep running when you stop carrying. Remember that. This thing, if I die tomorrow, this thing will still run for the next person with no maintenance. And guess what? This thing will outlive me. At 7,000 rounds, it needs some springs replaced. And at 10,000 rounds, you replace every spring and just continue that life cycle forever. You'll never outshoot or you'll never ruin a Gen 5 Glock as long as you follow that. It will outlive you. It'll outlive your whole family as long as you conduct the maintenance I just listed. 7,000 rounds, 10,000 rounds, and then every 5,000 rounds, change out the springs again, lubricate it, and clean it every 1,000 rounds, and that gun will outlive you. Glocks keep running when you stop carrying. If you carry a 1911 because you love it, you carry a Glock because you trust it. Okay? You carry a 1911 because you love it, but you carry a Glock because you trust it. iPad of Truth has done its part. I'm putting it away. If you guys got this far in the video and you enjoyed it, if every single person that watches this video hits the like and subscribe button, I have done my job. That would be awesome. If this video gets over 1,000 likes, I will do a part 2. Let me know what part 2 you want to see. Thank you for supporting the channel. Join the Patreon for $5 a month to get you access to a closed Discord server where you can find buddies to train with, game with, stay up late, and talk about why the 1911 is awesome. Thank you for donating. If you want to donate to the ammunition fund, there will be a link down below where you can donate to the ammunition fund for the burn downs. We are conducting a ton of burn downs on the channel right now. A lot of filming has been happening. So if you want to donate to the ammunition fund, do it. Thanks for being here, guys. And until next time, this is going to be Trench Grenade, reminding you that the real enemy in the room, it can hurt you, and that is the 6 Hour. So be cool with each other in the comments down below. Thanks for being here, and until next time, it's going to be Trench Grenade. Cheers.